When love ends, the world feels quieter. Not peaceful, just empty. The air around you feels heavier, and even the simplest tasks become mountains you don't want to climb. Your heart searches for a familiar voice, a familiar touch, a familiar presence, but all it finds is silence. Life has a way of moving forward with or without our permission. When love ends, the world inside you may feel like it has collapsed, but the world outside continues its rhythm without hesitation. This contrast often feels harsh. You wake up carrying the weight of a memory, but the sun rises as if nothing has changed. People continue with their routines, the clock ticks the same, and the days unfold with a kind of neutrality that can feel almost cruel in moments of heartbreak. Yet there is a hidden wisdom in this. Life does not slow down, because the universe is waiting for you to remember something important. Growth is not something the world gives you, it is something you choose. When your emotions are at their heaviest, you may feel left behind by the pace of life. But this forward motion is not a punishment, it is an invitation. It reminds you that even when your heart feels frozen, your path has not disappeared. You still exist within time, and time becomes the gentle push you need to start moving again. Even small steps count. Getting out of bed, breathing deeply, doing one task you don't feel ready for. These simple actions are not signs of ignoring your pain. They are signs that you are still capable of growth, even in moments of emotional darkness. As you begin to move, life starts to respond. Not instantly and not dramatically, but gradually. The heaviness in your chest does not vanish, but it begins to shift. You learn that you are not powerless against sadness. You learn that your emotional world may slow you down, but it cannot stop what is natural within you, the instinct to evolve. And evolution often happens silently, long before you notice it. A thought becomes lighter, a day becomes easier, a moment becomes less sharp. The continuation of life is not meant to make you feel ignored. It is a reminder that your journey has not ended simply because a relationship has. You still have directions to walk, lessons to learn, and strength to uncover. Growth is not a sudden breakthrough. It is the decision to keep moving even when your heart does not want to. And as long as life continues, you will always have the opportunity to rise with it. When love ends, it often feels as if something essential has been ripped away from you. The presence you relied on disappears, and suddenly you are left with an unsettling emptiness. A space that once felt warm and full now echoes with silence. But within this space, something profound begins to happen. Without the noise of constant emotional exchange, without the comfort of having someone there to lean on, fragments of yourself you once ignored begin to rise to the surface. Strength that you forgot was yours. Confidence that once belonged to you alone. Abilities you placed aside because you didn't need them anymore. The end of love does not just take something away, it exposes what you still carry within. When you are deeply connected to someone, it is natural to merge your routines and your emotions and even parts of your identity. You compromise, you adjust, and sometimes you shrink small pieces of yourself to maintain harmony or avoid conflict. When the relationship ends, those hidden pieces suddenly demand attention. This can be uncomfortable at first because facing your true self without distraction requires honesty. But it is also the moment where rediscovery begins. You start to notice the strength that was quietly waiting beneath the emotional layers you built during the relationship, with distance from the person you once depended on. The responsibility to move forward shifts entirely onto you. And this is where your inner power becomes visible. You learn that you can survive confusion, loneliness, and emotional pain. You learn that your worth does not disappear because someone chose to leave. You learn that the voice within you, the one you ignored because someone else's voice was louder, is still alive and wiser than you remembered. You begin to see your independence not as a burden, but as proof of resilience. Slowly, you rebuild routines that belong to you alone. You explore interests you put aside. You reclaim energy that was once poured into someone else. And each small step strengthens the understanding that you were never as weak or dependent as the heartbreak made you believe. The end of love becomes the moment where you rediscover the depth, capability, and clarity that were always part of you, waiting patiently to be recognized again. Loss has a way of revealing truths that we often avoid when life feels comfortable. When love ends, the pain feels personal, sharp, and unfair. But beneath that pain lies a reflection. A mirror that shows you parts of yourself you rarely look at. This mirror does not judge. It simply reveals. It shows you the attachments you held so tightly that you forgot where you ended and another person began. It shows you the expectations you placed on love, on yourself, and on your partner, even the ones you never admitted out loud. It shows you the fears that lived quietly inside you, fears that heartbreak suddenly brings to the surface. When someone leaves, you begin to see how much of your happiness depended on their presence. This realization can be uncomfortable, even painful, because it forces you to confront the places where you relied too heavily on emotional reassurance. You start to notice the stories you created in your mind. The belief that love should remain unchanged, that the person you loved would always stay, that the connection you built was unbreakable. These stories feel true, while love is alive. But the moment it ends, their fragility becomes visible. And it is in this visibility that transformation begins. Heartbreak shows you your patterns. You may see how you gave too much, or how you held back your true feelings out of fear. You may realize how you ignored red flags because you wanted the relationship to survive. You may also recognize how you tried to fix everything alone, believing that losing someone meant losing your worth. These patterns do not appear to punish you. They appear to teach you. They show you where you seek validation, where you fear abandonment, and where you tie your identity to another person. The mirror of loss also reflects your emotional strength. It reveals how deeply you can feel, how fully you can love, and how capable you are of connection. Even the pain itself becomes evidence of how open-hearted you were. And this awareness is powerful. It shows that what ended was not your ability to love, but only the chapter in which you shared that love with someone specific. By seeing yourself clearly, your needs, your vulnerabilities, your desires, you begin to understand what truly matters to you. This clarity does not erase the sorrow, but it gently redefines it. Heartbreak becomes less of a collapse and more of a revelation, a moment where you finally see yourself without filters, without illusions, and without the shadows created by attachment. Solitude is often misunderstood. Many see it as emptiness, as a space created by loss, as a reminder of what is no longer there. But solitude is not a punishment. It is a beginning. When love ends, the silence that fills your life may feel overwhelming at first. You are used to sharing thoughts, moments, and emotions with someone who is no longer present. The absence becomes loud. Yet within that silence, something essential starts to unfold. Healing does not happen in noise. It happens when you allow yourself to feel without distraction, without pretending, without rushing towards something new just to escape what hurts. In solitude, your emotions finally have room to breathe. The sadness, the confusion, the anger, the longing. Each feeling rises and falls like waves. Instead of fighting them, you begin to observe them. You start to notice how certain memories trigger a deep ache, how certain fears rise when you are alone, how certain hopes still linger even after everything has ended. This emotional clarity is only possible when you give yourself the space to feel without interference. Many try to avoid this stage, but avoidance only delays transformation. Sitting with your emotions allows them to move through you naturally, without becoming permanent shadows. During this quiet period, you begin to reconnect with yourself in ways that were impossible when your life was intertwined with someone else. You rediscover small details you overlooked, your own preferences, your own rhythm, your own energy. You begin to understand what nourishes your heart and what drains it. You start noticing how you respond to pain, how you hold yourself together, and how resilient you truly are. These realizations do not come all at once. They emerge slowly, almost silently, as you spend time with your thoughts and inner world. Solitude also teaches you the difference between being alone and being lonely. Loneliness is the longing for someone else, but being alone is the space where you meet yourself. It is where you begin to see your own strength, not as something you must force, but as something that naturally rises when there is nothing left to rely on outside of you. This inner earth becomes more visible the longer you allow yourself to remain still, present, and aware. Emotional storms lose their intensity when you stop resisting them. Tears lose their heaviness when you stop judging them. Pain loses its power when you stop fearing it. In solitude, transformation begins quietly, shaping you into someone more grounded, more aware, and more connected to your own inner truth. Healing after the end of love rarely announces itself. It does not arrive as a sudden burst of clarity or a moment of dramatic liberation. Instead, it moves slowly, almost invisibly, shaping you from the inside long before you notice any change on the surface. Pain has its own rhythm, its own language, its own pace. At first, it feels overwhelming, as if it has taken control of your entire emotional world. But as time passes, the intensity begins to shift. Not because you force it to, but because the heart naturally adapts to what it survives. In the beginning, each memory feels sharp. You replay conversations, moments, promises, trying to understand what went wrong or what you could have done differently. This is part of the healing process. Even if it feels like a form of self-torture, the mind revisits the past not to punish you, but to reorganize what happened, to make sense of the emotional impact, to release what the heart still clings to. Slowly, these memories lose their bite. They no longer cut as deeply. They become softer, more distant, like echoes fading in a long hallway. Healing also reshapes your inner world. It teaches you how to navigate emotions instead of drowning in them. You begin to see that sadness does not need to be feared, that longing does not define your worth, and that heartbreak does not diminish your ability to love again. Each time you face your emotions, instead of running from them, you grow stronger. Each moment of awareness becomes a small piece of emotional maturity. Over time, this maturity forms a deeper understanding of yourself and what you truly need from life and relationships. As the pain shifts, you start noticing moments of unexpected lightness. Small pauses where you feel calm without trying. These moments are important. They are signs that your heart is learning to breathe again. You begin to make decisions that serve your well-being instead of your fear. You start to choose actions that nourish you rather than remind you of what you lost. You slowly reclaim parts of life that once felt too heavy to carry. And with every small step, you realize that the version of you emerging from this pain is different from the one who experienced it. Healing reshapes you into someone more aware, more present, and more emotionally grounded. The pain that once felt unbearable becomes the very force that strengthens your understanding of love, resilience, and your own inner depth. When life begins to feel full again, it doesn't happen with a dramatic moment or a sudden shift. It happens quietly, gradually, almost unnoticed. One morning you wake up and realize your first thought is not about the past. One afternoon you laugh without forcing it. One evening you find yourself looking toward the future instead of replaying old memories. This is how renewal appears, not as a replacement for what was lost, but as a reminder that your story continues beyond heartbreak. Life expands slowly, and with that expansion comes the possibility of love returning in a form that is healthier, deeper, and more aligned with who you have become. When you grow through pain, you no longer search for someone to complete you. You search for someone who can walk beside you. You no longer want love that drains you or requires you to shrink yourself. You want love that honors your inner world, matches your maturity, and allows both souls to rise rather than collapse. This shift in desire is one of the surest signs that healing is taking root. You begin to understand that love is not something to cling to or chase. It is something to receive when your inner space is ready for it. As life grows wider, you also grow more aware. If you recognize your worth with more clarity, you understand your emotional boundaries. You learn what your heart can give without losing itself. This understanding acts like a quiet guide, helping you choose connections that feel authentic rather than desperate. You no longer mistake intensity for love or attachment for loyalty. You no longer ignore your intuition just to avoid being alone. Instead, you move with a sense of inner stability that makes future relationships healthier from the beginning. When love eventually returns, it does not feel like a rescue. It feels like a meeting between two people who have their own wholeness, their own inner strength, their own stories that shaped them. This kind of love grows from awareness, not from fear. It flows naturally because it is not trying to fill a void. It simply adds to a life that has already found balance. And even before love arrives, the fullness of your life becomes its own form of companionship. You begin to enjoy your own presence. You begin to trust your journey. You begin to understand that love ending did not reduce your capacity to love. It refined it. It made your heart more conscious, more selective, and more capable of welcoming love that aligns with who you truly are. When love ends, the heart breaks open, but not to destroy you. It breaks so you can finally see who you are without the layers of attachment, expectation, and fear. Through silence, through pain, through reflection, you begin to rise into a richer understanding of yourself. You discover strength you didn't know you had. You reclaim pieces of your identity you once gave away. You learn that life continues not in the shadow of what you lost, but in the light of what you gained through self-awareness. This journey is not about forgetting the love that ended. It is about transforming because of it. It is about recognizing that every ending carries the seed of a new beginning. And when you finally step forward with a full heart, life welcomes you with opportunities, clarity, and a deeper capacity for love than you ever had before. Your story does not end when someone leaves. It begins when you return to yourself.